Hi everyone, it's Abby with the Bead Place and beadplace.net, and today I'm going to show you how to make one of these really cool sari ribbon wrapped charm bangles. So the materials that we'll need are sari ribbon. We're going to be working with 1 yard of sari ribbon. Now you can either use a couple of bangles stacked together. These are our vintage bangles. They're just brass regular bangles. They're relatively thin. Or you can use 1 thicker bangle. These are the really cool tier cast bangles that we have on the website. They have holes in them that you can attach the charms to. You can see that we've done that here with this. And then with this bangle, we've kind of woven the sari ribbon through some of the bangles and then attached our charms just kind of directly into one of the bangles. All right, so just using scissors, I'm going to cut 1 yard of my sari ribbon, and there's no special way to go about it, just cut it. It will fray a little bit, but that's kind of a part of the charm of the bracelet that we're making. And what I like to do actually is even pull at some of the ends with my nails a little bit to make it a little bit more frayed looking so it doesn't look like a freshly cut end. So what I'm going to do is stack my bangles the way that I want them to be when I wear it. So I'm just going to do an every other pattern. So plain, decorative, plain, decorative, plain. And I'm going to take my ribbon and I'm going to hold about 1.5 inches through the end. I'm going to start a square knot. I'm going to bring the end through the loop that I'm making. So one of these guys. So just like how you'd start to tie your shoe and then pull it tight. So leave about 1.5 inches to a 2-inch tail, and this is going to be our little tassel that hangs down just like that. If you don't want a tassel, what you can do is kind of pull this off to the side and then wrap over the top of it to hide it. What I'm going to do is start wrapping. So I'm going to just kind of wrap around a little bit. I'm gonna do a spiral. You can see how it's just coiling around. Now what I'm gonna do is just kind of weave in and out of a section. So I'm gonna go over one of the bangles and through, and then I'm going to go under the next one. So over, under, over, under, and then over again. And I'm going to work that a couple of times back and forth. So again, I'm going to go under on the next one, over, under, over. And so you can make this as loose or as tight as you'd like it to be. I'm going to leave mine relatively loose. Then what I'm going to do is kind of secure it with a knot. So I'm going to bring my cord around, and I'm going to take the tail end and bring it back through that loop that I've just made by pulling it around. So it creates a knot, and that's going to secure it in place. So I pull it tight, and then that's the look that I get. Now I've got kind of an open area. I'm going to wrap tight again on my next little area here. So I'm going to do a couple of spirals. And depending on what your sari ribbon looks like, it could look bumpy, it could look real smooth. It just is going to give you an organic look no matter what, but you can kind of be more loose or tight and deliberate or kind of creative. So I've left a space there. I can kind of pinch it tighter if I want. And I want to show you one more technique that looks really cool. I'm going to bring my sari ribbon around and through. I'm going to bring the tail end through that loop that I've made, and I'm just going to do a couple of knots in succession. And that can even do almost like a spiral look if you think about like the friendship bracelets. So bring it through, just be consistent with the direction that you're knotting, and you can see that it's kind of creating this spiral look. You can either wrap entirely around your bangle or you can leave an empty spot. So you see how it's starting to spiral around. All right, so I'm gonna do just a couple of more wraps, and then I'm gonna end it with a knot, but I'm gonna leave a little blank section, and that's gonna allow me to add some of my charms. Now you can add your charms over the bangles if you'd like over all of them, or you can just attach through a couple of them, totally up to you. So just wrap through, kind of tighten it if you wish. And then when we end it, what we're gonna do is just that same knot technique that we started before. Bring it over and then bring the tail end through it and pull it tight. So I'm gonna do another knot just to fill in a little bit more of my space, and it makes it a little bit more secure, but it's not necessary to even do 2 knots because this sari ribbon really holds its shape well. You don't even need to glue it, and there we go. So I'm gonna trim this down, and then one technique that's really cool is you can actually just use your fingers to rip the sari ribbon into multiple little strips here for more of a classic tassel look. So you could do that. You could, what I like to do is I'll use my thumb to kind of pull down like I showed earlier, but that also kind of widens the ribbon a little bit. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna come back and show you a different technique. Okay, I've brought you in for a closer look to show you a different technique. This was developed by Linda Bierman, who is one of our instructors. She actually does basket weaving, and so she thought it would be really nice to do a basket woven technique. Pardon my manicure, you know, having a toddler and a store, my manicure is not the #1 priority. So what I'm gonna start with is I'm gonna tie a knot onto my first bangle. And then what I'm going to do is stack my bangles just like I did before, so in the order that I want them to sit. And now what I'm going to do is loosely weave in and out. So I'm going to separate my bangles slightly in my hand, and I'm going to go over, under, over, under, and then I'm going to reverse that for my next pass. I'm going to go over, under, and keep it loose when you're first starting out, and that'll make it a lot easier for you. So over, under, over. So it should be opposite, just like that. So just repeat this, and you want to keep your tension relatively loose on your warp and on your weft. Those are some weaving terms for you. So the warp is the bangle, and the weft is our weaving yarn. So I'm going to work a little bit, and I'll come back and show you what I've come up with. Okay, so I have done my last pass. I have just a short section of empty bangle here that I am going to add charms to. I have a short piece of my sari ribbon left, and how I'm going to finish it is I'm going to bring it up through my first bangle, and then I'm going to bring the tail end through this loop that I've made by bringing it through. I'm also making sure that I'm finishing it so that it ends on the same side as the side that I started, and just make sure you've got a nice little knot. I'm going to do a double knot here just to make sure it's super secure, and also so that it matches the size of the knot that I started with. Pull it tight. And then one tip that I can share with you is that if you have little uneven spots in your weavings where it's a little bit tighter in one spot and looser in another, is you can just kind of pull on the loop on the end here and just kind of transition the slack. I've got a tight area here that I'm going to work a little bit of the slack into. So just pull on this side, pull here, pull this one, and it'll just kind of even out. Just work all the way around the bracelet if you want it real even, or just work on one problem area. Another thing that you can do is just kind of wiggle the bangles a little bit, and that will transition some of the slack to where it needs to go as well. So you can apply glue if you'd like. Personally, I don't find it's necessary because, like I said earlier, the sari ribbon holds very securely on its own. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and take some jump rings and head pins, beads, and charms, and make a little decorative focal area here for my bangle. So I have some beads, head pins, spacers, charms, and jump rings that I'm planning to assemble to add to this empty space. Now, this bangle blank used the same techniques to add the sari ribbon as we did in the first step, and adding the charms to the bangles is the same for all the versions. First, we're going to use a head pin, and we are going to load the bead onto it. Now the head at the bottom stops the bead from falling off. I'm going to add a spacer on top, and then I'm going to do a technique called a closed wrap loop. So I've just created 2 charms out of my beads using head pins and a technique called a closed wrap loop. If you'd like to see a more in-depth video on how to create these charms using the closed wrap loop technique, follow the link in the description below. All right, so our next step is to add the charms onto the bangle. We're going to use jump rings, which are these little circles. We're going to use those to attach the beads and the charms onto the bangle. So in order to do that, we need 2 chain nose pliers, or 1 chain nose pliers and 1 flat nose pliers. Now, anytime you're opening and closing a jump ring, I'm sure if you are a fan of our videos, you know what's coming. Anytime you open and close a jump ring, you want to make sure to open and close it in this direction and not like this. Doing so allows you to close the ring back in its original position. It'll be a lot easier to close it. We are going to hold the jump ring with the break at 12 o'clock. You can see, maybe you can see, there's a break right there. In my non-dominant hand, which is my left hand, I'm holding the pliers straight up and down, and I'm covering almost one whole side of the jump ring. I'm going to bring the other pliers in sideways, and I'm going to open my jump ring just by turning my wrist. So I now have an open jump ring. What I'm going to do is grab one of my charms, slide it on, and then I'm going to just hook it through just any of these open spots in the bangle that I want. So since this charm's a little bit bigger, I'm going to kind of use one of the higher up bangles, and then I'm going to close it in the same way. Now, since I have a bangle in the way, I can't really hold an entire one whole side of the jump ring with my pliers, so just bring your pliers in whatever angle makes sense to you, and then close it. So there we go. I'm going to add more charms in the same way. So again, hold one pliers up and down and one sideways, open it, add one of your charms or your beads, and just loop it through and close it. Now, if we were adding these charms to the bangle that we just made, you can see you just kind of loop them through wherever. Now you can do all on the bottom, like what we did here, or like what we're doing here. You can attach your charms higher up or lower. Now, if you're using one of the pre-made bangle blanks, you just add them into the holes. You can strategically place your sari ribbon so that you're leaving space for your charms to go, or you can even attach your charms into the sari ribbon itself. You just kind of work your jump ring through it. You can also use a larger jump ring and go over the entire bangle, or you can use a little bit of wire and use that to add charms or just to embellish your bangle however you'd like. So I'm going to add a couple more charms and I'll come back to show you what I've done. As always, thank you so much for joining us today to learn how to make these really cool watercolor sari ribbon bangles. The materials that we use can be found at www.beadplace.net. You can purchase all the items in a kit, or you can find all the fun charms and materials individually as well. We'll have links in the description below. Oh, I forgot to ask. I want your opinion. Which style do you like the best? Which one do you think you'd wear more? Do you like the basket woven style? Do you like the multiple bangle tight wrapped style? Or do you think you'd like using one of the pre-made bangle blanks? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed watching our video, please give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions or just want to say hello, please put a comment down below and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching.